The number one Necromancer build in the world right now, and it only cost me 40 billion gold to make. Two things about this though. First, it was worth it. Second, you don't need to spend that much gold. Why was it worth it though? Because it allowed me to get into the top 5 Necromancer world position, and I'm only a few seconds off number 4. What made it so expensive, and why don't you need that? First, in order to make the build work, you need an offhand that says maximum resource and maximum life, but it doesn't need to be a greater affix. If you want to have a greater affix one though, that cost me 15 billion, and I wanted to get to that top 5 position. I didn't just want to make it work. Second, you need a Blood Moon Breaches, and they should have a 150% roll, because that is, you deal 150% increased overpower damage to enemies affected by your curses. That's your biggest damage scaler. You want that as high as possible. Then a greater affix in max life wouldn't hurt. That cost me another 15 billion. The build though works with less than optimal items. And one thing that's very important is 275 essence that I don't actually have all the time. And you need the 275 essence to activate the Banished Lord's Talisman permanently, that every single Bone Spirit is an overpower with a 100% crit chance that gets a 60% multiplier. By the way, in the background, there's the top 5 world push running to give you a feeling for how it looks at the very end game. Now, in order to get that 275 essence, we already have the offhand. We talked about it. That's plus 39. And we do have the Harlequin Crest with plus 44 as well. These items only get me to 223. So how do we get to 275 permanently now? Your Paragon board adds another 16. That's 239. We're almost there. And you could drink an elixir of a resourcefulness for 25 more resource. That would still not put us at 275. And that's where the Path of Trag'Oul boots come in. Bone Prison traps a larger area, and it fires 27 bone splinters, and they each increase your essence by 2 for 10 seconds. This brings you from the 270 essence all the way to 300 and beyond. The good thing with these boots is, even if you have only 200 essence, even 180 essence, you're going to be able to reach the 275. And that works against big mock packs and single bosses. Let me demonstrate. Multiple targets, elites. You're going to have 223 essence. I do a bone spirit and I'm at 239. And I put down my prison, and now the splinters are shooting out, and I recast the prison and the splinters are shooting out, and my essence is just rising and rising because it's 10 seconds. So if I keep putting the bone prison down, I am just getting more. We're sitting at 331. That's the max I can currently achieve, especially going to make sure that all the segments of your prisons are actually cast, because every segment that's not being cast is then not doing a bone splinter. And even if we're doing this against a single boss, you want to kind of put the single boss more or less in the middle of it, you can see we're actually managing to get this up where we would like it to be. And when we get the 300 plus against a single target, and considering I'm sitting at 331, I could put off the Harlequin Crest with plus 44 maximum resource and would still be good. And don't worry if you don't have a Harlequin Crest. You could get a normal helmet with max resource, and then the normal helmet can also have cooldown reduction and maximum life. Absolutely possible. Get that in greater affixed and you'll still be close to what the Harlequin Crest does for you. You're just missing the 4 ranks to everything. Now, there's another important thing that made this build better than ever, and that is lucky hit up to a 15% chance to restore primary resource. Yep, that's insane, because we don't need to do heinous things anymore to restore our resource. We're simply spamming Bone Spirit with 0 cooldown. Yes, the gameplay is Bone Prison and then hold down the button of Bone Spirit. That's it. Goes dun 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 dun. And then resource regain, resource regain. Will it happen on every single bone spirit? No. Would it happen on every second bone spirit? Definitely. And you get your ultimate that also lucky hits the whole time. In order to get our lucky hits as high as possible, we're playing the Fists of Fate. The Fists of Fate have multiple uses. First, they boost our lucky hit chance by 126.9%. Yeah. That brings us up to a 95% lucky hit chance on the Ghost, which then has us deal 1 to 300% more damage, leading to hundreds of billions of damage, and up to a 101% chance to apply a random crowd control effect. That means every single bone spirit with the explosion is freezing, stunning, chilling, slowing, immobilizing, whatever you could imagine will just slam into your opponent, and especially into the bosses as well, making you consistently apply the stagger. Even the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th stagger, that usually never happens against bosses because after the 3rd, it's nigh impossible to stagger them. Now you get the Fist of Fate, Path of Trag'Oul, Banished Lord's Talisman, mandatory to actually make it work, and the Blood Moon Breaches. Those are the uniques you're looking for. Then we wanted to have that offhand with a max resource, life, and the lucky hit chance to restore essence. I am playing the Doombringer, and I'm one of the few ones actually playing it up here. And I get the maximum life and the all stats. Would be perfect if I had the triple maximum life roll. More life, more damage, more fortify, more boom, and the damage reduction tremendously helps to just keep you alive. Now that being said, there is another option, another route you can take, and that would be a one-handed mace with max life, overpowered damage, then chance for Bone Spirit to deal double damage and overpowered damage as well. Now I'm not going for a one-handed weapon like this, and the reason is, if I choose the one-handed weapon, I need to double or triple hit the chance for Bone Spirit to deal double damage. If I'm not double or triple hitting that, the Doombringer is always better. Let's talk about the aspects. On your offhand, it's facing Poltergeist. That has your Bone Spirit. As it explodes, spawn 3 spirits that deal 40% of the damage to the enemies. Amazing! And then we get Imprisoned Spirit. That has your Bone Spirit that explodes inside a prison. Do another explosion for 80% of that damage. You do a 10 billion, you do an 8 billion. That's 18 billion together. You do an 80 billion. I mean, you see where we're going with this, right? Fantastic. On this amulet, we're looking to get max life, attack speed, and I currently have intelligence. You could get crit chance if needed, or lucky hit chance. Then we're tempering up to a 50% chance to restore resource as well. That together has us always topped up. It is not 100% needed. It's simply a security measure, but it could also be another ultimate cooldown reduction or 2 more ranks into rapid ossification. You could technically take casting a macabre skills restores primary resource. You don't need that, but in case that you wouldn't lucky hit one time, you would still have more resource to do a minimal more damage. Do you need the Ring of Starless Skies to make it work? No, not at all. The Ring of Starless Skies doesn't make anything cheaper here. It just adds another 50% more damage multiplier. Any other ring will do, together with Grasping Veins, for example, giving you more damage as you're pulling things together with your Corpse Tendrils. Or the aspect of Serration gives you another 40% more crit damage on your bone skills. That being said though, 34% attack speed, 5 to core skills, and a huge amount of lucky hit chance and crit chance on top. The ring is truly amazing, as it brings us to 95.4% attack speed, and I'm currently sitting at 77.4% inside town of critical strike chance. Outside town, it's 90% critical strike chance. And with your Bone Spirit then getting another 10% crit chance, boom. That's where we're sitting at 100% crit. And with that 100% crit, you always have the Bone Spirit cooldown. You need that 100% crit. Mandatory. Our chest piece is the Shroud of False Death, and this one is way too good for the build, as the +1 to all passives gives us another 5% more damage, 6% more damage, and it actually activates spiked armor even. Then we're getting another 2% whistled out here and another 4% on the amplify with the necrotic carapace, and that's our source of fortify. One single rank that I didn't even put. Easy squeezy. And then one more rank in compound fracture for 5 and 5% more damage, with another 5% more damage, more crit chance, my sacrifice bonuses being harder sacrifice to then multiply our damage higher up into the overpower heavens. The usefulness of Shroud of False Death is beyond. Then we're playing use our resource to cast Decrepify. Our curse is being cast by spamming Bone Spirit, and that's really important because this gives us now Decrepify with the cooldown reduction and the execute, but I don't have to worry about cursing anymore. I can just spam Bone Spirit and Bone Prison, and that's it. And instead of the curse, we're adding Blight, and then Blight to deal 20% more damage. Now you could say, Pony, why not the Warcry rune? Because the Warcry rune only adds 15% damage, and I still have to manually curse the whole time. So now I'm adding 20% with Blight, instead of just war crying for 15% and having to curse anyways. Like this, I only have to think about blighting every 6 seconds, and that's it. Instead of, like, my curse ain't online, I'm losing 150% damage, or my blight ain't online, I'm only losing 20% damage. The second rune we're using is use a cooldown, and Bone Spirit is a cooldown, to get 20% more life. More life, more damage. Kind of works nicely together. Could technically have that more life go away for the war cry as well. But I will say that the 20% more life, especially if you do play the Doombringer, just nicely multiplies upwards. Now you know all the pieces of the build, but how do you play it? And that's very simple. Bone Prison, ultimate activated, and then we just spam Bone Spirit. Because our curse is automatically being cast, we're getting more HP by casting, and we're blasting everything into pieces. In between, do your corpse tendrils to pull everything together, replenish your Bone Prison whenever it's gone, and throw in a blight. Done. That's the gameplay loop. Super automatized, super fun, just machine gun spiriting out. In this skill section, it's especially important to max out on Unloving Energy for the most maximum resource bonus. Then only 1 point in Necrotic Fortitude is enough. If you don't have the Shroud, you should be putting 2 points in here. These 2 points have you permanently buried up forever. Now, if you're lacking on the critical strike chance, you have the 10% more from the Ghastly Bone Spirit, and instead of putting all the points into Soul Rift, you could put more points into Serration. Your bone skills have another 1.2% increased crit chance for each 30 essence they have up and cast. With 200 essence, there is quite some bonus crit chance happening. Now, I do not need this, I do not require this, so I can have the cooldown of Soul Rift be lower. And the last thing you can tune your crit chance with is Inspiring Leader. I'm currently getting a 16% extra. I don't need a 16% extra since I sit at 77.5%. Therefore, could take that 1 point out to bring me down to 12, and the actual Serration takes care of the rest to then boost my Soul Rift up. You notice there is wiggle room in a lot of these areas to fit to your actual level of equipment. And the Book of the Dead provides you with another 10% crit chance. And this gets boosted by that plus 80% of the Memento Mori. Yeah, 80 because of the Shroud of False Death. Otherwise, it's only 60. Then we get tons more overpower damage. That also gets boosted, and even more critical strike damage from our Golem Sacrifice. That has us sit at a whopping 11,000 overpower damage and almost 2,000 crit damage right now. I'm not sure if it might be better to swap out my overpower gems to have a better ratio of crit to overpower, as there are some diminishing returns. The Merc gets interesting. I'm currently using Subo, and the reason is that he gives me 25% more critical strike damage to enemies hit by Subo's cover fire every 20 seconds. Kinda nice. If you're not at 100% attack speed, you should think about using Variana as your main, because she gives you Bloodthirst with 10% more attack speed, and she also gives you another 15% more attack speed with her other ability. Two things. You can vastly boost your attack speed with Variana if you're not 100%. That being said, she's my reinforcement right now because I'm sitting at 95%, and that 5% more attack speed for 7 seconds every 22 seconds. Hey, I'm not going to say no to that. It's a no-brainer. To the Paragon board, and no worries, we got the 50, 100, 150, 200 Paragon board for you. Let's go into the planner. First 50 points, activate the Eliminator glyph, and then straight up go into the Bone Graft board to get the bonus essence and even more bonus essence. Then in the second one with the 100 points, we're also activating the Essence glyph, and just take enough dexterity that is actually activated. Then move over to the Frailty board and also get Dominate online. Take enough willpower that Dominate would be straight away online. And with 150 points, move forward into the Bloodbath board for that huge damage multiplier. With some damage reduction, even more maximum life, and then also the Amplify glyph for another damage multiplier. And lastly, on the left, we're going to be moving into more maximum life into the Blood Begets board with max life, maximum life, maximum life. After 200 points, your goal is to get all the max life nodes that you can somewhere reliably find. Activate elemental resistance if needed and get more attack speeds. And also here, the maximum life on this side. You can get yourself even more damage reduction if you feel like that's something you want. More overpower damage. Slowly fill all of these out. And don't forget to activate the Corporal glyph on the left side to just get a huge bonus to damage while healthy. And also, well, the blood damage not really here. It's more like the damage while healthy to go higher. And Corporal is another 10% damage multiplier. In the end, you have 33 points left, which you can essentially use to just fill out the Eliminator glyph to get even more bonus stats, the 10% damages, whatever you feel like. These are your free mix and match 33 points. Ladies and gentlemen, Machine Gun Bone Spirit, your vibe, are you enjoying? Ladies and gentlemen, could I convince you of the Machine Gun Bone Spirit? And if you now want to see the mythical tier list of all the mythics ranked and moved around, here's a video for you. Very good watch. You should do it. Go now. Thank you very much. Enjoy.